Let us continue with Lesson 4, A Truly Beautiful Mind, Part 2, from your English reader book, Beehive, for Class 9. Let's recapitulate what we have learned in the previous video of the chapter, A Truly Beautiful Mind. We learned that Einstein was born in Germany on March 14, 1879. Einstein was a slow learner and liked playing by himself with mechanical toys. He had a sister named Maria who went later on with the name Maja. He married Mileva and had 2 children from her. Later, he divorced her and married Elsa. He enjoyed playing violin, especially at the times when he used to be in any problem or stressed, or to relax himself. He had a good collection of violins. He was highly gifted in mathematics and physics. Now, let's read further. Before we continue the chapter, I would like to divulge some information about Einstein's brain. The brain of Albert Einstein has been a subject of much research and speculation. Einstein's brain was taken out for studies during the autopsy soon after his death, without the prior consent of Einstein himself or from his relatives. Einstein's brain was preserved after his death in 1955, but this fact was not revealed until 1978. Studies have suggested an increased number of glial cells in Einstein's brain. And glial cells are the ones that provide support and nutrition in the brain and participate in signal transmission. Albert Einstein is believed to have had an IQ of 160 as compared to average IQ ranging between 85 and 115. Besides, his brain study revealed 17% extra neurons than any other ordinary man. And maybe that's why he was able to visualize his thoughts. And these extra neurons indicate faster transmission of signals. So I tell you, my dear children, he was truly gifted child. Let's resume the chapter reading with paragraph 9. One of the famous papers of 1905 was Einstein's special theory of relativity, according to which time and distance are not absolute. Absolute means measured in itself, not in relation to anything. Earlier, all the physicists thought time and distance, time and space, both are independent individual entities. They are not related to each other. 1905, often called Einstein's miracle year. In this year, Einstein published 4 papers, each of which would alter the course of modern physics. Indeed, 2 perfectly accurate clocks will not continue to show the same time if they come together again after a journey if one of them has been moving very fast relative to the other. In this, Einstein postulates that if 2 identical clocks are brought together and they are synchronized, that is, if their time is set and both are showing similar time, one of the clock remains on Earth and the other is sent into space on a fast moving jet. When the other clock, which is in space, returns back, there will be time difference in both the clocks. This is what the relativity is. From this followed the world's most famous formula, which describes the relationship between mass and energy, that is E is equal to mc square. With this, Albert put forward the formula of relativity, that is E is equal to mc square. E is equal to mc square. In this mathematical equation, E stands for energy, m for mass, and c for the speed of the light in a vacuum. And the speed of light in vacuum is about 3 lakh km per second. Einstein says, when you sit with a nice girl for 2 hours, it seems like 2 minutes. When you sit on a hot stove for 2 minutes, it seems like 2 hours. That's relativity. Albert Einstein. The equation E is equal to mc square. Famous mostly because of its association with one of the most devastating weapons produced by humans, the atomic bomb. The outcome of the project led to the death of hundreds of thousands of Japanese citizens in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and Einstein was deeply moved by the disaster caused. Paragraph 10. While Einstein was solving the most difficult problems in physics, his private life was unraveling. Unraveling means starting to fail. As Albert was busy with his difficult problems of physics, but here he couldn't manage his life. Albert had wanted to marry Mileva right after finishing his studies, but his mother was against it. He did not get approval from his family to marry Mileva. She thought Mileva, who was 3 years older than her son, was too old for him. One reason for refusal or not accepting the marriage relationship of Einstein and Mileva was 3 years elder to Einstein. And his mother thought that she is too old for him. She was also bothered by Mileva's intelligence. Even her mother was bothered that she is also very intelligent and Einstein also too intelligent. She is a book like you, his mother said. Einstein put the wedding off. His mother said that Mileva is also like you. She is also an encyclopedia. Two intelligent people cannot make a family. So his mother was worried that they may not have a happy married life. So Einstein had to call off his wedding. Paragraph 11. The pair finally married in January 1903 and had 2 sons. When Einstein was able to get a permanent job, he married Mileva in 1903 and they had 2 sons. But a few years later, the marriage faltered. Mileva was not able to complete her graduation in physics. After marrying, she did not pursue with her studies. She did not do any job. She became only a housewife, and this frustrated her. And there was frequent fights between Mileva and Einstein. Mileva, meanwhile, was losing her intellectual ambition and becoming an unhappy housewife. After years of constant fighting, the couple finally divorced in 1919. So, after having friction for many years, they finally decided to get divorced in 1919. Einstein married his cousin Elsa the same year. The same year, Einstein got married to one of his childhood friend and his cousin, that is Elsa. But Einstein has only 2 sons, 2 biological sons, that also from Mileva. Paragraph 12. Einstein's new personal chapter coincided with his rise to world fame. In 1915, he had published his general theory of relativity, which provided a new interpretation of gravity. Earlier, it was thought that only Earth has gravitational pull, but Einstein proved other planets also has gravitational pull, gravitational force. An eclipse of the sun in 1919 brought proof that it was accurate. Einstein had correctly calculated in advance the extent to which the light from the fixed stars would be deflected through the sun's gravitational field. The newspaper proclaimed his work as a scientific revolution. Deflected means changed direction because it hit something. E is equal to mc square was Einstein's special theory of relativity. Here this image shows Einstein's general theory of relativity. Einstein's general theory of relativity suggests that the sun's gravity bends the path of light from distant stars. It's a testable prediction, but only during a total solar eclipse. The eclipse of 1919 fit the bill nicely. Einstein put forward his postulation of general theory of relativity in 1914, but as it could be tested only during total solar eclipse, they had to wait for 5 years. In 1919, the solar eclipse was crystal clear. It was well done without any weather condition not favoring the solar eclipse. So that was a year when they could test the theory put forward by Einstein. Different scientists worked upon this theory and they proved that the theory put forward by Einstein is absolutely correct. Now here you can see the image of sun and which is overlapped by the moon, and there is total solar eclipse during the day and there is darkness all around, so you can see the stars in the sky. So this is your earth and this is the actual location of the star. The radiation from the star moves like this. As it comes close to sun, the rays of the star comes close to the sun. The gravity of the sun will pull the light of star and this will be bended. This will be deflected. Due to this deflection, the man standing on the earth will view the star like in this particular position, but actual position of star is here, but it appears to be here. This is the general theory of relativity put forward by Einstein. Paragraph 13. Einstein received the Nobel Prize for Physics in 1921. So Einstein, for his different postulations and theories put forward by Einstein, for this he was honored in 1921 with Nobel Prize for Physics. He was showered with honors and invitations from all over the world and lauded by the press. Lauded means praised or appreciated. Paragraph 14. When the Nazis came to power in Germany in 1933, Einstein emigrated to United States. Einstein renounced his German citizenship in 1933 due to the rise of Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party. Now what's this Nazi Party? It's a political party and it stands for National Socialist German Workers' Party. Hitler and Nazi Party considered Jews to be inferior race of people, and Nazi Germany carried out a campaign to cleanse German society from the Jews and others. So fearing the Nazism, Einstein escaped Germany and sought refuge in England. Einstein was a Jew. Jews belong to Israel. They are not Germans basically, they are Israelites. 5 years later, the discovery of nuclear fission in Berlin had American physicists in an uproar. In an uproar means very upset. Berlin is a place in Germany, and 5 years later, Einstein's exile from Germany, they discovered nuclear fission. And because of this, the American physicists were very much upset. Many of them had fled from fascism, just as Einstein had. And now they were afraid that Nazi could build and use an atomic bomb. What is fascism? In simple terms, fascism is defined as a government structure where one dictator, here at this moment Adolf Hitler is the dictator. And this dictator has the complete control of the entire country, state or territory. Anyone who opposes this dictator, that is Adolf Hitler, is suppressed and individual rights are often oppressed. So, fearing this fascism, many of the American scientists left Germany at that time, and they feared also that these Nazis would be able to develop an atomic bomb and attack United States. Nazism and the rise of Adolf Hitler. Their ideology was demolish Jews. Paragraph 15. At the urging of a colleague, Einstein wrote a letter to the American President Franklin D. Roosevelt on 2nd August 1939, in which he warned a single bomb of this type exploded in a port might very well destroy the whole port together with some of the surrounding territories. August 1939, and that was the time when there was Second World War broke out between America and Japan, and Einstein feared that Japan would succeed in developing an atomic bomb. So Einstein, giving a warning to the American President Franklin D. Roosevelt, he wrote a letter to him that one single bomb of this time, if it is exploded in any of the American port, might not only destroy the whole port, but it will destroy the surrounding territory also. His words did not fail to have an effect. That is, his words did not go unheard. The then President Franklin D. Roosevelt gave heed to his letter. The Americans developed the atomic bomb in a secret project of their own. So the Americans started working on the theory of Einstein, that is E is equal to mc square, and they developed an atomic bomb in their secret project and dropped it on the Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in 1945. Do you know the effect, the impact that the bomb had on Hiroshima and Nagasaki? The impact is still there, even after so many years. On August 6, 1945, during World War II, an American bomber dropped the world's first deployed atomic bomb over the Japanese city of Hiroshima, when on 6th August 1945, Americans dropped one bomb on Hiroshima. The explosion immediately killed an estimated 80,000 people. Tens of thousands more would later die of radiation exposure. The radiation that was exposed or emitted after the bomb blast killed several people later on. 3 days later, that is on 6th August, first bomb was dropped, and 3 days later, that is 9th August, the second bomb was dropped. 3 days later, a second bomber dropped another atomic bomb on Nagasaki. Now this time not Hiroshima, this time they dropped on Nagasaki, killing an estimated 40,000 people. That day itself it killed 40,000 people. Japan's emperor announced his country's unconditional surrender in World War II in a radio address on August 15. Seeing the devastation, seeing how devastating the bombing was, immediately, that is, first bomb on 6th August, second bomb on 9th August, and on 15th August, Japan's emperor unconditionally surrendered in front of United States. Paragraph 16. Einstein was deeply shaken by the extent of destruction. By seeing the destruction, the amount of loss of the property, the amount of life lost in the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Einstein was deeply hurt and disturbed. This time he wrote a public missive to the United Nations. This time, instead of writing letter to President Roosevelt, he wrote a public missive. on behalf of all the public of United Nations. Missive means it's a letter, especially long, and it is official. In it, he proposed the formation of the world government. In his missive, he proposed that one world government should be there to manage and control the war between the countries. There should be no war and there should be no arms that should be developed. Unlike the letter to Roosevelt, this one made no impact. So, the first letter which he wrote to Roosevelt had deep impact. They developed another one atomic bomb and they dropped it on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. This time, this missive had no impact at all. But over the next decade, Einstein got ever more involved in politics, seeing the political background that politics is not working towards a humanitarian acts. He himself got into politics, agitating for an end to the arms build-up. He requested everyone, all the nations, that the arms build-up should be stopped, and using his popularity to campaign for peace and democracy. And he started preaching peace and democracy. Paragraph 17. When Einstein died in 1955 at the age of 76. Einstein died when he was 76 years old in 1955 due to some abdominal abnormality. He was celebrated as a visionary and world citizen as much as a scientific genius. Visionary means a person who can think about the future in an original and intelligent way. So after his death, he was celebrated as a world citizen and a visionary, not only as scientific genius. Now let's see what is the message behind the lesson A Truly Beautiful Mind. What motivation can we get from the life of Einstein? The life and achievements of the famous scientist Einstein gives us a message that a truly beautiful mind possesses not only vision but also makes sincere efforts to use this vision for the well-being of mankind. Science should be solely devoted to the promotion of world peace and prosperity. If used for destructive purposes, the scientific inventions and discoveries can wreak havoc on humanity. A truly beautiful mind, Albert Einstein.